Today's video is brought to you by Grey Viking Games. Click the link in the description below to buy MTG Arena codes for cosmetics, packs, and more. Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Jeff, and today we're going to dive into some sweet Strixhaven decks that I put together here. Most of them are at least trying to be competitive, not exactly being meta or anything like that, but trying out the new stuff and trying to be as competitive as possible with these decks. And I think that we got some pretty sweet stuff. So there's 6 decks here. One of them is basically a different take on this one, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that one. But super excited to be diving into these ones because, dude, Strixhaven looks so fun. I'm really excited for it. I think it shakes things up a lot. I'm also going to be doing a whole historic video on the same stuff coming out soon. So all the historic decks, because there's a bunch of new cards for historic, especially with the mystical archive as well. So let's dive right into it. So diving into this just so we can get a good view of each of the different things here. Let's just dive right into this. So the main cards that this deck is built around is mono white magecraft aggro. And magecraft, in case you've been living under a rock, you haven't seen any of the other Strixhaven stuff, whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery spell, you get the magecraft ability. And for this one, you get +2/+2 until end of turn. So 1 mana, 0/1. But every time you cast an instant sorcery spell or copy it, you get +2/+2. So Akum Hellhound has already been good for the up to like 2 land drops that you can hit if you have a Fable Passage or anything like that, which makes it a 1 mana, 4/5, which is really good stuff. Well, with this, on turn 3, turn 4 or whatever, as long as you have some ways to be drawing cards and cantrip effects or whatever, you can be making it like a 6/7 consistently every time you attack it, and that's without even targeting itself with a heroic type effect or anything. And so this card is really busted. It's really good, and it's kind of the main thing we're built around, but it's not the only one of these that we've got built around. And so let's actually check out Leon and Lightscribe as well, which is also awesome. 2 mana. Whenever you magecraft, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. And so it gives, and it does count for itself as well. It does give itself the +1/+1. So it has prowess basically. And so what we're trying to do is basically use Clever Lumimancer, Leon and Lightscribe to be the main engines to make just a bunch of value in this deck. There are a few other creatures that do magecraft type effects, but I didn't feel like they were good enough. They weren't better than playing Fairy Guide Mother, which, gives us the ability to have an adventure effect, as well as like Giant Killer, which is just another body. So the thing that we want to have out here is for Clever Lumimancer, we want to get it out on turn 1 if we can. So like we might even want to be mulliganing aggressively to get that. Other things that we want though is a bunch of just cheap creatures like Giant Killer, Fairy Guide Mother, Also Life's Bounty to be on the battlefield, so that when we hit Leon and Lightscribe, we can give +1/+1 to everything. So once we actually start casting our instants and sorceries, then we can start getting a bunch of Leon and Lightscribe abilities. And so that's what this deck is doing. Is we have Clever Lumimancer, we have Fairy Guide Mother, we have Giant Killers, we have Leon and Lightscribes, and then we have a bunch of different instants and sorcery spells that we can go for. But first off, let's dive into the other creatures, especially some of the new ones here. We also get Mavinda, Student's Advocate. I'm sorry, this is what I found is the best way to kind of go through this quickly, and so we'll keep zooming in and zooming out for a little bit. Mavinda, Student's Advocate, 3 mana with flying, 2/3, and it's nice that it does have flying, and then you can pay 0 and you may cast a target instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard this turn if that spell doesn't target creature you control and it costs more. So as long as it's a spell that targets a creature that we control, which guess what, that's what we got. We have a bunch of stuff that targets our creatures with those things. So Mavinda, then it costs 8 or more to cast. Right, I forgot to actually read everything else. So if you aren't targeting your own stuff, then it costs like 1 million to recast. But as long as it targets some of our stuff, so like Sajiri's Shelter, you can target our stuff. This doesn't count for the Fairy Guide Mother and Giant Killers, because this won't count as an instant sorcery spell in the graveyard. They count as creature spells. But our Fight is 1. Our Guiding Voice, put a counter on target creature you control, which is our Defiant Strike. The Guiding Voice here also has the Learn effect mechanic. We'll dive into that in just a second here. Also, Show of Confidence. This one, I believe that it still targets, because on the ability it does say that you target creature that you control, right? And so Show of Confidence also will work, which then whenever you cast it, you copy it for each other instant sorcery spell that you've cast this turn. You may choose new targets for the copy. So it comes out and it becomes multiples of these, which is really busted. If you cast multiple spells beforehand, then you cast Show of Confidence and then cast it again. It's 0 to be able to cast it again, so you still have to pay the 2 mana again to cast it. But you can end up having tons and tons of magecraft triggers off of this, because it creates copies, which means that Clever Lumimancer, not only do we target it with a +1/+1 counter and give it vigilance, we also get this up to like 2020. If we have enough mana, we can. That's probably the biggest thing, is that we have to get up to enough mana to make it work. And so then we also have Elite Spellbinder. While we're going through the creatures real quick, Elite Spellbinder, 3 mana, Human Cleric. This is the PVD, the champion, World Champion card art. Human Cleric with flying, 3/1. Whenever it enters the battlefield, look at the target opponent's hand. You may exile a non-land card from it for as long as that card remains exiled. Its owner may play it, but it costs 2 more to cast. So basically discard Hand Disruption a little bit in white, which is awesome, especially because when we're playing this kind of a deck where, on turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, we may want to be getting out more creatures rather than just going for the main effect, going crazy. And so this can go in and hit a Doomscar. It can hit, if Doomscar's already been foretold, then we might be out of luck, but it can hit some sort of board wipe. It can hit their big beefy thing that they're going to be playing out, like just their best play on turn 4. We can take away so that then we can go off with Leona Light Scribe and Clever Lumimancer on the turn that it comes out, or on turn 4, which is our mainly our turn that we're going to be comboing off and going off and winning with all of our cantrip effects like Defiant Strike, that draws a card whenever we target, or whenever we cast it, we draw a card. I guess that's really only one that draws us cards as well, but that's where Mavinda also comes in. Hopefully another good turn 3 play instead of Elite Spellbinder to make sure that we can be making that happen. And so let's go ahead and dive into the learn mechanic here. So yeah, Guiding Voice. Let's just go ahead and read what learn does and show you how I built the sideboard for this one. Guiding Voice, 1 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, or you can learn, which means you may reveal a lesson card from outside the game, or reveal a lesson card from outside the game, put it into your hand. So there's a bunch of lesson cards in our sideboard. This is all for best of 1, or you can discard a card to draw a card. And so that's really nice. If you know there's not anything that you need in the graveyard, or you just really need to find one certain thing that's in your library, just discard to draw a card, and you can still make this, discard that land that you've been needing, and make sure you can kind of keep going off with Defiant Strikes, whatever. Or if you really just need something else from the sideboard, then we have a bunch of extra lesson cards here. And so the main things, the good lesson cards here, Academic Probation is really good. In white, so anything that has this lesson text right here is what counts as something you can grab with the learn effect. So you choose one to choose a non-land card name. Opponents can't cast spells with the chosen name until your next turn. And so you can just say, okay, I know that you have that Doomscar in hand. Boom, bam, you can't cast that now. Or whatever else it is, like their best removal spell, whatever thing that they were going to be casting, their best thing that you were able to see their hand from the Light Scribe. This just becomes really good. Or you just know what they're going to be casting. No more John in the Locks, no more, anything good, and then you stop them. And you can also choose target non-land permanent. So the end of your next turn, it can't attack or block, and it can't activate its abilities. So it's a passivism for the same price of passivism that it only lasts for 1 turn. So these lesson cards definitely aren't as good as some other stuff. Although at the same time, I really like the first ability. I think that there is ability like that for 1 mana as well, but it's just good. Like this is just, the times that you will cast this, especially if you're going to be digging it from the sideboard and you have it available, it's probably going to be very, very effective for you. And that's kind of the whole idea of this. Same type of thing here with like Reduce to Memory. Exile target non-land permanent. Controller creates a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. This is only sorcerer speed, so you can't like interact to someone killing your own stuff. It doesn't really work that way. You can't give that and then also give it haste, not in this deck at least. But this is at least just good removal. It does exile any target non-land permanent, and yeah, if they get a 3/2, that's fine. We've been, mono white's been playing Skyclave Apparition, kind of being okay with that situation for forever, and this is just something that we can go grab out of the sideboard if we're in that situation right at that moment. And so with the learn mechanic, I only have those 4 cards, only the Guiding Voice that has any of the learn lesson mechanic. And I feel like they're good enough. Here, I'll just read like this because I have it zoomed in at the moment. So yeah, 2 mana 1. These are colorless mana, so you can use it in just colorless mana for this. But search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library, gain 2 life. So if we needed mana fixing, this is just like an ability to gain 2 life real quick is why it's in here. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature, gains vigilance at end of turn. Sometimes that might be nice. It's another spell that can target our stuff is what I'm going for with it. Introduction to Prophecy. Scry 2, then draw 2. If I just really need, scry 2, then draw 1. So kind of like a worse opt for 3 mana, or a little bit better opt for 3 mana. So these are definitely overcosted, but I can go grab them whenever I want to, and that sometimes is really nice. They can fit the situation, which means that typically, if you fit in the right situation at the right time, makes it worth casting for 1 more extra mana or 2 extra mana a lot of times. Or you can exile target non-permanent. Its controller draws a card, or Mascot Exhibition, which I think is one of the other actually good ones, where you just create a bunch of tokens out in the battlefield. If you have a Lone and Light Scribe after that, you can end up doing quite a bit of damage. A 2/1 Inkling Blackfire with flying, 3/2 Spirit, or 4/4 blue, and then red elemental. Mana base, I'm actually only running 16 lands with 1 Castle Ardenvale and then a bunch of modal lands here, with Kabir, Takedown, and Shiri Shelter. We're really cheap for the most part in this deck. At the same time, though, we do want to be getting up to 3 lands. And so the places where you probably cut is either the Elite Spellbinder or Mavinda. Those are the 3-drop, like, okay, we're going to do extra things as well with this. And I'm not exactly sure where to cut. I wanted to try to throw the deck together to be fun enough to be able to do kind of everything I want to. So right now we're still at 22 lands, which is quite high for how aggro this deck is. At the same time, though, we do want the mana, like we do want at least 3 to 4 lands by turn 4 consistently, so that we can be casting multiple spells with, and going off with magecraft to be hitting in. And so anyway, that's the deck, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we're going to dive into the next one, because this one is pretty similar stuff. This is basically the exact same deck, but we're adding in blue and green. I'm going to go over this one really quick, just because there's a lot of other different stuff I want to dive into. But I just wanted to showcase like how you can do this in different colors. The biggest issue with going into different colors is that you lose a lot of consistency by being in other colors. We do have all the pathway lands, which does help out a lot, but still just some things are different. So let's just dive into this really quick. And we'll just go over a few of the cards that are worth talking about. So first off, the Symmetry Sage. Let me make sure you guys can see this. Yeah. All right. So 1 mana 0/2 with flying. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, target creature control has base power 2 until end of turn. So very similar type of effect to Clever Lumimancer, where this is 1 mana 2/2, but it also has flying, which is really busted. But it also can't get higher than 2. Like, casting multiple spells doesn't really work. In some instances, this can actually be better than the Clever Lumimancer. Just because, I'm just needing a 1 mana 2/2, and it has flying, it has evasiveness, and that's fine. But the cool thing is that you can also target your Clever Lumimancer with any other additional magecraft abilities and give other creatures base power toughness 2 or higher, or sorry, base power of 2. And so giving Clever Lumimancer base power of 2, and then also giving that will also just make it, a 4/3 on after 1 spell instead of anything else. So that's the kind of crazy shenanigans that you can do by casting multiple of those. There are a lot of creatures that already have the base power 2, but between Clever Lumimancer, this one, and then also like your Fairy Guide Mothers, Giant Killers, things like that, you end up having enough. We also got Dragon Guard's Elite. That comes into this version. 2 mana magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery spell, put a +1/+1 counter onto Dragon Guard's Elite, and then you can pay 6 to double the counters on it. And so just a fun card. I think that it's kind of good. We also get the green cantrip of charge through. Target creature gains trample until a turn, and you draw a card. We have been waiting for green to have a good cantrip, and this is just a fantastic cantrip for it. Just giving trample, like, this is exactly what this deck is wanting, to be able to do something like that. And then this is the other reason why you would be going into the Bant colors, is for this card right here. This card is amazing. This is the Drown in the Loch for Simic, as long as you're in the right deck, So Decisive Denial, Simic colors instant, Quandric colors. Either choose target creature you control, fights another creature you don't control, so you can cause stuff to fight, or you can counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 3. Having the ability just to hold this up at instant speed, just like, okay, I'm going to fight stuff now, for any kind of response, or so it's removal and it's counterspell, which is exactly like Drown in the Loch, which has seen lots and lots of play. I think this actually will almost see more play, just because the colors that it's in are so good. And even though Drown in the Loch is a hard counter for whatever it hits, it also has, issues, or sometimes you don't have enough CMC to actually make it happen. Where if someone's really far ahead of you or anything like that, you can still just, counter an ultimatum with this, as long as they don't have the 3 mana to pay for it. So I actually think Decisive Denial is awesome card. And the fact that it can still fight if ever situations go off, like maybe they do have enough mana to be able to pay the 3 mana after playing an Emergent Ultimatum, but a lot of times they're going to go like there are some times that the Emergent Ultimatum goes and grabs a creature as well, and maybe you have a Questing Beast or something to fight it. And so excited about that. We're going to be diving into another deck that has that. Okay, I said I'm not going to spend too much time on that one because we have a lot of other fun stuff to dive into. And here it is, Prismari Dragons. Dude, I'm so excited for this deck. Dude, all of these decks, I'm really excited for. So let's dive into it. All right, so starting off, just going over the new cards, because that's what matters. So the main reason that we're playing this one is Galazeth Prismari. So 4 mana, 3/4 Elder Dragon flying. When it enters the battlefield, you create a treasure token. By the way, all of these deck lists are down in the description below. So if you guys want to go through and like check out everything, and this is also so you can be able to export it from this and put it onto Arena real quick as soon as the new set comes out, which comes out in 5 days. So sweet stuff. Anyway, enters battlefield, creates treasure token, which is things that we want. Artifacts you control have tap to add mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast instant sorcery spells. But that means you get a bunch of extra mana, especially for anything that is going to be able to be an artifact and tap down. Treasures also count for this. So the treasures you can tap down, but the treasure ability won't be able to tap itself for mana to create mana afterwards, but you're still getting mana for it, and so it's good. And then, of course, we have the Goldspan Dragon, which fits with that perfectly, just being able to make sure that we can capitalize with the treasure that we get with Galazeth. But some of the new cards that we also get Draconic Intervention. 4 mana as additional cost to cast a spell. Exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. It deals X damage to each non-dragon creature, where X is the exiled card's mana value. If a creature is dealt damage this way, then it would die, then exile instead. So basically, this hits all non-dragon creatures, so all your dragons are safe. That's why we're playing dragons here. We have Gadrak in here as well because we are trying to make artifacts. I do wonder how good this one is, but we're gonna try it out on this deck. But Galazeth and then Goldspan Dragon as the main, like all of our main creatures are dragons. We do have Bonecrusher Giant over here, but he's the only one that's not a dragon. And it's mostly in here for the stomp. But so with the Draconic Intervention, we have to grab a CMC of a card from the graveyard and then do that much damage to everything. So if we had countered something with Assault Coming or like Negate, Frostbite, or even like Shadow Skull Smashing gets into our graveyard, I think this counts as 3. I'm trying to remember with the X. I think it does X not count for the mana value, so it would count as 2. So then it's a 4 mana dual 2 to everything, which isn't that amazing, but 2 to everything that's not our dragons. Or we can have a Magma Opus in the graveyard, which is kind of the dream, where we do 8 damage to everything except our dragons, which is sweet stuff. All right, so 8 mana. Instant, it deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. Tap 2 target permanents and create a 4 blue and red elemental creature token, and you draw 2 cards. So it does all of the things, but it's also 8 mana, so it's hard to get to. We do have a bunch of ways to ramp into it with Prismari, with the treasures, with Goldspan Dragon, all the stuff that we can get up to 8 mana actually pretty consistently, as long as we untap with any of our dragons or just keep the treasures around after they die or something like that. Like we can actually do this fairly consistently, but we don't want them in the early game. And so you can also just pay 2 to discard it, create a treasure token, which is also something that we want on turn 2 if we don't have anything better. I think that's going to be the hardest thing, is like actually wanting to do this on turn 2 to discard it over just holding up, counter spells or something different or removal. But if you are, then throwing this in the graveyard also has benefit with Draconic Intervention. We also have a few other ways to just kind of discard it anyway with Royal Scions and Prismari Command, which gives us 3 mana, choose 2, it deals 2 damage to any target. So yeah, choose 2 of these different ones. Target player draws 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. So that's kind of the way we can draw some cards, kind of like the Faithless Looting effect. All right, filter through everything. We can throw some stuff in the graveyard for the Draconic Intervention. This is also a good way to filter and dig for it. We can create a treasure token, or we can destroy target artifact. I'm only running 2 of these because I feel like I really like the abilities these have, but it's a bunch of really cheap spells abilities at 3 mana, which is good enough. I do think this actually is a good enough card. I just don't want to be running into it like twice in a game, really. This is like, okay, I want this in my hand once a game for the situation that it comes up, and then I'm fine running into all of our other stuff instead. And so I think two of is probably the right way to go here. Maybe, I don't know, but that way we can at least throw a 3-command cast thing into graveyard, because of course we're casting the Prismari command, which also is typically good enough to kill just about everything with Draconic Intervention that is going to be out on turn 4. And then if people are going really crazy and ramping everything like that, then you hopefully have the Magma Opus to work with Draconic Intervention, or another Draconic Intervention to do 4 points of damage. And so that's basically the idea of this deck. Gadrek can, of course, with having some good removal and everything in the deck, we can also have get treasures with Gadrek, the Galazeth Prismari, and then Goldsmith Dragon. And we just win by swinging in the air with these guys. And that's the dream. Magma Opus, Bonecrusher Giant to do lots of extra stuff, and Frostbite. So we are running some Snowlands to make sure that the Frostbite works. We're only running Snowlands for the Frostbite, and so I'm not sure if this is actually the best thing to be running here. It might be better to not run that and run like Shocks, because you can also throw that face. There might be some other just better things to be casting that slot. So this is probably the one slot that Frostbite is really good. It's a really good removal spell, but is it better than just having a little bit more consistency against other matchups and stuff? I'm not sure. But we also get Faceless Haven into the sideboard as well by running Snowlands. So I think it's good. We're running Fabled Passages, Pathways, 2 Temples, and then we're just running the Snowlands here. And I think that's good enough to get us to where these are useful on like turn 5, turn 6. Which is about where we want to be with it. So that's the deck, guys. Let's jump into the next one. And again, I'm not diving into every single card, every single nitty gritty thing, because I know that you guys can go check this out in the description down below. Go check them out as well. And also I want to be talking about the new interesting stuff. So that's what we're going to do. Our next one, this is what I'm really excited for. Simic Stompy is something that I think is going to be really, really good here. And so Quandrix Echo Stompy, let's dive into it. So why is it called Echo Stompy? Because of this card, Augmenter Pugilist, and its flip side here. Let's go a little bit. There we go. I found it. All right. So 3 mana, 3/3 with trample. As long as you have 8 or more lands, then it gets +5/+5. So it's a 3 mana 8/8 with trample, as long as you have lots of lands on the battlefield. Most likely just going to be a 3 mana 3/3 for a while though. But you also get the other side of this card. At 5 mana, choose target creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of it until end of turn, except those creatures aren't legendary if the chosen creature is legendary. And so we can turn everything into questing beasts in this deck, which we do have the questing beasts to make that happen. But the other side of it is that we get to, or we can turn everything into our Augmenter Pugilist, which hopefully we do that when we have like 8 lands out there, and all of a sudden everything becomes an 8/8 with trample, which is really hard to beat as long as you have like 3 creatures even. It's really like, that's a lot of damage going at someone's face. And that's really hard to beat, especially with trample. And so that's kind of the main idea of this, is try to get, 3 to 4 creatures out in the battlefield, turn them all into the good stuff of, Elder Gargaroth, Questing Beast, Kazu's Mammoth, Kazandu Mammoth, play a land out, everything gets the buff. There's just some really fun stuff that we can do with it. And so that's the main idea of the deck, or turning them all into flyers like Brazen Borrower, where we can go in with the evasiveness and hit in and win the game. And so I'm really excited for this one. Coma also, so Coma is a little bit interesting with the way that the echoing says, it's until end of turn. They won't become legendary, so we can turn everything into a coma. We attack it with everything, and as long as we have 1 serpent out, we can sacrifice that serpent wherever it makes the most sense, but we don't get to untap with them, which means we don't get the ability on the upkeep. We'd have the earliest that we can activate or cast this is afterwards. And so Coma, while we do have 1 Coma in here, it's mostly just because we are still ramping, we are playing other things out there, and it's nice to have something big on the top end, just in the Simic colors in general. But it's not actually it's not actually a good target for the echoing one. But Questing Beast can be really busted with it. Gargaroth can be really busted with it. Vivian, even just making a bunch of extra tokens for us every turn, can do some really busted stuff. And then of course we have Decisive Denial, just because I think it fits perfectly in that slot. Okay, we can dodge board wipes, we can stop a few spells there, and we also just have the fight mechanic for a Love-Struck Beast for whatever else we need to be protecting or doing cool stuff with. So honestly, I'm really excited for this deck. I think this deck is really powerful. The biggest issue I think I had with it is trying to figure out the ramp slot. Right now I have Lotus Cobra, just because I feel like we do have a Kazandu Mammoth, we have Fabled Passages in here, this is basically how I've kind of figured out the best way to be doing lands for me is 4 pathways, 4 pavement passages, and 2 temples for anything that's 2 color. That just has been a little bit, it's been fairly consistent, and then you just like trim down the color, the basic lands equal to whatever is fitting the best. 1 Castle Garenbrig in here to make sure that we can play like, you know, our bigger spells a little bit quicker, or play multiple things on 1 turn, because that's what we want to do, is get a few creatures out in the battlefield to be able to use this. Works better with great hands, that kind of stuff. But that's mainly the game plan here, is just play out big beefy stuff, kind of ramp into it a little bit. We have a bunch of things on the 5-drop slot. While we do have like Love Struck Beast, Brazen Borrower to make sure that we're filling out the 1 and 2 mana slot really well, and the 3-drop slot, then we're just like really stacking into this 5-drop slot of Elder Wrath, Vivian. We have the Echoing Truth, Echoing Equation, and so I mean, that right there is 10 5-mana cards. That's why we do need at least some ramp here. And Lotus Cobra, I think, fits that fairly well, where it's another creature we can be playing on turn 2. We can ramp up into big things. It lets us, you know, play out Great Henge and do some shenanigans. It's another cheap creature we can play. At the same time, though, I think there could be another card. There's the Pixie, Maryleaf Pixie, which is a Simic colors as well. 2/2 with flying that can tap for either blue or green mana. And being able to turn everything into a 2/2 flyer is actually not the worst. At times, if someone's at, you know, 8 life left or 10 life left, you have a few creatures out, you can give them all flying and swing in. That might just be the game. So good stuff. The other way you can go with the Echoing Equation is having a bunch of creatures that have like plus and plus counters on it, turn them all into this. So having like the snakes, adding snakes into the equation, and other stuff. Anyway, could be good as well. Well, this is what I ended up with. I'm actually really excited to play this one. This one looks really sweet, and I'm stoked to play it. The other issue this might have is in Arena. I think this is the right amount of lands. Between these 23 and then the 2 Kazandu's Mammoths, that gives us 25. And with Lotus Cobra, I think that you can ramp up. Again, that's the issue with Lotus Cobra. Sometimes you want more lands so you can be hitting it more consistently. But as long as we can get up to 5 mana, we're good. And 25 should get us up to 25 or to 5 mana fairly consistently. Or we have the Great Henge to kind of ramp us up to there as well. So we do have ramp in the deck. But I do feel like we can maybe go up to 1 more land somewhere. Or fix this ramp slot a little bit more. Anyway, that's the only issues with the deck. What I was saying though, 23 lands in Arena. If you have it at an odd number for some reason, everyone I've talked to, or a lot of people in the comments section, and what I've noticed myself is that you tend to get mana screwed a lot more with odd number of lands in there rather than even. For some reason, whatever that the algorithm or whatever the thing works with the shuffler just gives you a few less lands. Even if you're like at 27 lands, a lot of times it's worse than having 26 or something like that, and it doesn't count the lands that are in this. So try to get this to 22. Like it might even be better to go 22 here and go up for 1 more Mammoth. Test it out on your own, because I'm not sure how consistent that is. All right, and the last deck here, another one I'm super excited for, is the Lorehold Luca deck, which is super exciting. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. So the whole idea of this, we are playing a Yorion deck first off. So there is a companion Yorion here, and we have Velomachus Lorehold, which is way too far. All right, 7 mana 5/5 with flying, vigilance, and haste. Whenever it attacks, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to its power from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest in the bottom library in random order. So anyway, we get to do some pretty sweet stuff. Every time we attack with this, we get to get a free spell, potentially up to 5 mana value, which is huge, or whatever his power is, which 5 is kind of what we're going for with this. We can kind of guarantee that he's going to have 5 power, right? So we're going to attack in with him and get some extra value. So how do we attack in with him super quickly? Well, we use Luca and Transmogrify. Sorry, that was weird. All right, so Luca, Transmogrify, do the same thing where they exile a token that we have, go searching for the library for the next creature that we have, which this is the only creature that we have in the deck, and then we get to put that onto the battlefield. And so we either get Luca, Copper Outcast, use the -2 ability to do that. yeah, you guys have seen this one. I'm not going to dive too far into it. Or Transmogrified to make sure that we can get to the Velomachus Lorehold. And then so on turn 4, turn 5, we get that out. We get to swing in with Velomachus Lorehold. We get to go digging through our top 7 cards of our library and cast the best spell, which the different spells that we have here, a few of the new ones that we got, we have Lorehold Command, which is kind of like the Prismari command. It has a bunch of different options here, but for Lorehold, it's at 5 mana, which fits perfect for the Lorehold. For Velomachus Lorehold, there we go. 5 mana instant, choose 2, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible and haste until end of turn. So if we attack in and they just suddenly like flash out something with, I don't know, whatever, we can hopefully hit this and give it indestructible. Lorehold, I can either do the lightning helix effect, 3 damage to any target, gain 3 life, or sacrifice a permanent and then draw 2 cards. So we card draw with this, we get everything, which we are going to have lots of permanents in this deck, because how are we going to make sure that we use Luca and Transmogrify is by having a bunch of different instances or a bunch of token spells as well. So we have, first off, we have Birth of Meletis and Omen of the Sun, which are not spells that we can hit with Velomachus Lorehold, but still can make tokens for us. Then we do have our spells with Forbidden Friendship, Rally the Throne, which if we cast it for Adamant, we can gain a bunch of life as well, which can be really, really nice for us at times. One life for each creature you control. In the late game, this can be, if you haven't hit a board wipe or anything like that, it's going to be gaining you like 10 life at times. But you're probably shooting for like 4 to 6 life gain with that, which is still pretty decent. Excuse me. And then we have Valakut Awakening to be able to hit with Velomachus Lorehold, and then of course we have Starnheim Unleashed, which I think is a pretty sweet card here, where it's another thing that we can hit with the Velomachus Lorehold, where if I'm attacking with a 5/5 and I get a 4/4 while I'm attacking with it, I'm down for that. Like that's good stuff. So even just getting the 4 mana version of this is great. Then we also might just have, we might just be playing a little bit control and need something to kind of win in the late game. This is the Starnheim Unleashed is the other way that we can kind of be doing that, is be using this. I'm debating if I want more copies of Starnheim Unleashed, but I want to make sure that we have the combo online to make sure that we have tokens by turn 4, turn 5, and that's why we have so many token generation things on turn 2, turn 3. And then make it happen. Rip Apart also comes into this. 2 mana sorcery, another Strixhaven card. It deals 3 damage to any target creature or planeswalker, which is nice. And then you can also destroy target artifact or enchantment. So this is sorcery speed. That's probably the biggest downside of it, but it's also a really nice thing to hit a lot of times with the Lorehold. Being able to just kill basically anything out there on the board, or get the artifact or enchantments. It hits so many things that it's worth playing for sure. And being able to hit at instant speed with the Lorehold is really nice. Probably the biggest downside is if we only run into like a Transmogrify, because unfortunately we can only Transmogrify into another Velomachus Lorehold, which would be a little bit awkward. We of course have Amiri's Call into this as well. Strategical Smashing, just a few other things in general. Fire Prophecy to be able to hit with this as well, and that's basically the deck. Oh, also Compare Takedown, we have a bunch of tokens that are going to go out. So if we just have a bunch of different spells that we can hit with this and make it decent. The other downside is probably hitting like a Shadow of the Sky, which wouldn't be as good. I have Draconic Intervention, which won't hit our Lorehold, but it will hit all of our tokens. That's what I was talking about earlier with the other dragons. Hits non-dragons. We should have spells to be able to hit pretty well with that. But I feel like we're playing the control deck. We want to be able to have just a board wipe at times, even if it kills our tokens. Guess what? We can rebuild tokens. We're just fine. We have Yorion to blink the Omen of the Suns and Birth of we don't have a ton of other permanents to blink with it, but we could do that. We have Luca and Lorehold again. So booyah. But that's the deck. So I'm really excited for this one as well. 27 lands here. Again, I think that is the right number of lands, but it might be better to go to 26. I don't know. Or sorry, 20. We're in a Yorion deck. So it's 27 lands. We actually have a ton of modal lands here actually as well. So we go to 29. Valakut Awakening, also really sweet to hit with Velomachus Lorehold. Strategical Smashing and Amiri's Call. So it brings up to like 34 lands, I think it is. In an 80 card deck is about right. Although that's a lot of tap lands, which is also why we need some board wipe effects and everything. So All right, there we go. I think that's it, guys. What deck are you guys most excited for? We went through a bunch of these ones. This is probably the deck I'm the most hyped for, is the mono white magecraft. Not this exact version, whatever people fine tune and make the best version of it. But this just has a lot of really sweet pieces in there. But I think that deck is going to be really busted. Do you think it's better going into other colors for it, or is that just going to be a little bit too much? That's personally my opinion. I think it'll be a little bit hard to actually make work. Prismari control, Prismari dragons, I think is going to be busted. Does Gadrak actually deserve a slot in that spot in that deck? I think as a 1 or 2 of, maybe not as a 3 of, but we came for the memes right now, and so that's why we're doing it. And then of course Quandrix, Simic. I think that Decisive Denial adds a lot to decks like this, to be able to just have the perfect amount of interaction that you need, and you just don't have to, like, typically you need a lot of slots to be able to do all of these types of things. And now just being able to fit that, a fight effect, which is really good in stompy decks, and also being able to have the counterspell in the same slot is just huge. That means you can fit other better things, more interaction or whatever else you need into a stompy deck, which is just awesome. And so really excited for it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Check out the decks in the description down below, and bye-bye.